Good evening to you both, and let's begin with the Smith government hitting pause on its order for school divisions to remove books with explicit sexual content. Marg, what do you make about the state of dialogue around Alberta's book removal policy and how the government is responding to the degree of controversy swirling here?
Well, I'm glad to see there's a pause, but I do question why they didn't, maybe consult with schools and teachers and everything ahead of time. This has become a real mess, and it almost feels like the schools it's like a class detention for a few supposedly bad behaviors, and it's not even certain that this has occurred anywhere. So it's just a big mess.
John, a comment from the Premier. There has been some willful and purposeful misunderstanding of the policy. To what degree do you feel this controversy lands at the feet of school divisions, specifically Edmonton Public, for the lengthy list of books it came up with?
In Danielle Smith's world, everybody else is always to blame except for her and her government. I might note, Michael, she also said the Edmonton Public School Board was guilty of vicious compliance with their ministerial order. It was the UCP government that drafted this ministerial order. The Edmonton Public School Board was following it. They were looking at all the books in their inventory and looking to remove those that had explicit sexual content or even non-explicit sexual content, because that was actually in the ministerial order. And then when they produce this list of books and there's outrage, oh, well, we didn't mean the classics of literature. We just meant novels with graphic pornography or graphic sexual images. Well, they should have been more specific then. But, this whole issue, Michael, is just a debacle. It's typical of Danielle Smith and the UCP government of overreach, of wading into issues that are non-issues and providing a solution in search of a problem. Once again, Michael, it's a complete mess, and they've brought this upon themselves.
Marg, the Premier's indicated the pause will be short. So how do you see this order being rewritten such that it maybe satisfies all involved?
I don't know if you can write a ministerial order that's going to cover what they want, and they seem hell-bent on having this order back really soon. It's a terrible time of year to even consider something like that for teachers. They've got enough other things to do. Smaller schools don't have the resources to do what they're asking. And it's just a slippery slope in general. It's a censorship order, that I don't think they can get it right without a lot of thought or even at all. I think it just should be pulled and not brought back.
John, Marg brings up that this is a tricky time of year. The start of the school year. Teachers are up to their necks in that. But by the same token, how does all of this play at a time when either a teacher strike or a lockout continue to loom large?
Well, exactly, Michael. That's the thing that the UCP government should be focused on. The fact that we're on the brink of a teacher strike or possibly teachers being locked out of schools. We have, by the Premier's own admission, overcrowded classrooms in this province. And we have all these other issues that teachers are now having to deal with removing books from schools and identifying transgender kids in classrooms. It's just a complete mess. And it's up to the Minister of Education and the UCP government and Danielle Smith to focus on the issues that really need to be addressed in Alberta schools, and not these frivolous, superfluous ones, which, Michael, are causing international embarrassment to Alberta by the fact that this book ban went not just national, but international, with stories on the BBC and the Guardian in Britain. So, they've created a complete mess with this, and I think Marg is actually right. It's going to be very difficult for them to actually draft a new ministerial order that doesn't get them into further trouble.
Marg, for whatever comes of this policy now, is it one that remains in the education realm, or do you see it expanding?
Oh, I think it'll expand. I think it doesn't belong in the education realm. And, as a former teacher, I can tell you that students are going to find information elsewhere. They've got smartphones that can't be controlled by schools. They've got their computers at home. If they want to find stuff, they're going to find it. And trying to control this in schools is I think ridiculous. And what's next? Are they going to attack the public libraries? Like, there's no business for the government to be doing this, in my opinion.
John, we heard from Laura Winton on that potential element of this expanding beyond schools into the public library system. How do you feel about that? And what would that create if it were to expand?
More international embarrassment, that's for sure, Michael. You know, Danielle Smith lost the plot on this story, Michael, when she started getting trolled on Twitter by Margaret Atwood. You know, and if they try to extend this book ban to public libraries, there's going to be a huge outcry, not just in Alberta, but nationally. This is not something that the government of Alberta needs to be focusing on. They're just pandering to a small minority interest group in this province, Parents for Choice in Education, that actually lobbied for this in the first place. And instead of pandering to their base, the base of the United Conservative Party, they should be governing for all Albertans, and they should not be extending book bans or censorship to books in other places. And Marg is absolutely right with her last point, Michael. None of this applies to the smartphones that all kids have these days, or to their computers or laptops that they have at home. So the whole issue is ridiculous in the first place, because even by banning books from libraries, you're not going to be able to prevent kids from seeking out that material should they wish to do so.
The Premier and her Alberta Next panel took their province-wide tour to Danielle Smith's riding Tuesday evening, and here's a sample of what audience members and the Premier had to say in Medicine Hat.
This is not a forum for discussion. We are being spoken at. We are being given propaganda videos and forced to be fed what you are offering to the Alberta public.
Mrs. Premier, take us the hell out of Confederation, now.
We're waiting to see if either of the petition campaigns gathers enough signatures. I think there's only one that's gathering signatures at the moment. And the other one is in a court process that isn't going to be completed until I'm not sure when.
A large crowd turned out in Medicine Hat expressing a wide range of opinions as the panel sought input on several topics, including an Alberta pension plan, a provincial police force, and constitutional changes. Further town halls are set for Lethbridge, Airdrie, Grand Prairie, and Calgary later this month. John, I'll start with you first time. The Premier arrived to loud applause, though, as we heard in the clip there. Reaction was also mixed. Surprised to see that mixture in Danielle Smith's own constituency?
Not really, Michael, because, you know, Alberta is not a homogenous place. Not everybody thinks the same way, even in places where there's more conservative support than others. You know, it's a sad spectacle, though, Michael. You know, Danielle Smith grievance tour as it goes around Alberta, fomenting divisiveness, fomenting unhappiness. You know, I'm not sure what the point of all this is. You know, she keeps playing the videos and keeps promoting these ideas which have been rejected by the majority of Albertans. This idea of withdrawing from the Canada Pension Plan and creating an Alberta pension plan. This idea of getting rid of the RCMP and setting up Alberta Provincial Police Force. The majority of Albertans do not support these policies, Michael. And now this latest one of creating a new tax agency in Alberta to collect taxes instead of the CRA, which of course would require Albertans to have to fill out 2 income tax forms, not just 1. You know, these are all very unpopular ideas. What Danielle Smith and her panel are trying to do, or what she is trying to do, is manufacture consent for these ideas. But I don't see that it's happening, and it's going to be interesting to see as this grievance tour continues, Michael, where it goes from here.
Marg, as a former MLA, cabinet minister, you're no stranger to be front and center at a town hall. So what's striking you about the dialogue, whether it's from Medicine Hat on Tuesday evening or any of those previous, about the dialogue emerging from these gatherings?
Well, I would agree 100% with everything John said. I attended one of them in Edmonton here, and it just feels like a big waste of time. They have videos that are very skewed to what they want. The lady in your clip was exactly right. They're being spoken to. We're being spoken to, rather than a conversation. When I was there, the moderator had lots of time to give to the people who agreed with the audience, but if you disagreed, you were cut off very quickly. And it was just, to me, it's a waste of time because they know what they want. And as John said, they're just trying to create approval from people. But it was very divisive when I went there. And I watched some of the one last night, and it looked as divisive down in Medicine Hat.
John, Lethbridge next week. What will you look to come of the remaining panel stops? What hinges on the outcome?
I expect more of the same, Michael. You know, as I said in the last segment, what Danielle Smith is trying to do, her and her chief of staff, Rob Anderson, they are trying to manufacture consent for this Alberta First Sovereignty Association agenda that Danielle Smith has. What she wants to do is she wants Alberta to copy Quebec so that we have our own police force, we withdraw from the Canada Pension Plan, have our own pension plan, set up our own tax collection agency, which of course would require a new bureaucracy and as I said earlier, would require Albertans to fill out 2 income tax forms instead of 1. You know, what they're trying to do is generate consent for these ideas, because they know that right now from their own polling and from their own survey, Michael, that the majority of Albertans are not on side. So what they're trying to do with this grievance roadshow as it travels across Alberta and generates media attention is they're trying to manufacture consent for these ideas.
All right, I believe we have time for one more topic, and that is the government's launch of what it's calling the Alberta Wallet, providing access to provincially issued documents on your phone. The app is now live, and the first document you can add is a mobile health card. The government says your wallet's privacy will be secured through strong encryptions. The app will replace paper copies, there we see one, of your health card, but those who prefer the old cards will still be able to use them, Marg, regardless of the government in power. And this could reflect back to the time when your government was in power. How long overdue is this?
Well, I think it's overdue to get maybe a more permanent card, but I'm not sure that having a wallet on your phone is the answer, because there's lots of people who don't have smartphones maybe, or aren't good at figuring it out. I'm thinking of people older than me, maybe. I tried it yesterday. It's actually pretty easy to download and do, but at the same time, why can't we just get a plastic version that you can just carry in your wallet? Because I'm thinking when I travel, I don't always have my phone on data and that, so it's going to be hard if I need it when I'm traveling. And I don't know. I'm not sure I'm 100% convinced this is the way to go yet.
John, anything to be made of the timing of this announcement?
I'm not sure, Michael. You know, the funny thing is when she and Nate Skubish had the news conference, it was completely overtaken with the negative reaction to the book ban. Overall, Michael, I think it's a good idea. Anytime governments are introducing technology to make things easier for citizens, I think that's a good idea. But Marg made a very good point, and that is a lot of seniors are not going to adapt to this because as Marg said, not everybody has smartphones, and especially seniors, especially people over in their 70s and 80s. And people of that age are also the biggest consumers of healthcare. So I don't think that they're going to download this app onto their smartphone if they, in fact, even have a smartphone. So I think that is a problem. But the fact that they're introducing this and that newer, younger generations of Albertans are going to be able to download this onto the phone, I think overall that's not a bad idea, Michael.
Marg, you get last quick word. How do you see this playing with anything yet to come with the continued rollout of the health system overhaul?
Oh, good question. I guess they're looking at everything they can, but I'm just wondering if this is another distraction to other things that need to be fixed. I do like the fact that they're going to incorporate this with your driver's license down the road. So I think that's good. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems weird when there's other things to fix.
All right. We have to leave it there for time. Great to see you both. Thank you for this.
Thanks, Michael.